A host of the charges against Donald Trump are dismissed today, or yesterday rather, in the Fani Willis case. So we'll be talking about this, plus some other problems with Fani Willis as well, and a little bit of the cope and see that goes along with that because, well, MSDNC is not taking this well. So we'll go over some of that, what it means, and where it goes coming up in the next election cycle. In other news, the House passes a TikTok ban. Longtime viewers of this channel know that I am fully against this. I will reiterate why I'm against this and some of the problems that are going on with this and, well, some of the things that people might fear about it as well. So we'll go over that, what's happening there, and where we go with that. Mitch McConnell endorses Trump because there is nobody left, literally. So we'll talk about this, plus some other political news, including 2 congressmen leaving and some problems going on with election fraud as well. And the Donald comes up with the bond for the I'm already starting to talk like Biden, and we're not even into the stream for more than 5 minutes. The Donald raises the money, posts the bond for the E. Jean Carroll case, as E. Jean Carroll looks to go back and strike with more defamation. So we'll go over some of that, what's happening there, what that means. It is going to be all of this and more, plus things I like and things that I hate tonight over here on Contemporary. So grab some friends, tell some people about this. Word of mouth is the best advertisement. Get some food and strap yourselves in for the next couple hours as we go over how screwed we really are in the political system and shiny diamonds like the eyes of the cat in the black and blue. Something is coming for you. Race for the morning. You can hide in the sun till you see the light. We will pray that it's all right. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. You know, it's ironic that you say that, Mogwai, because I actually do have the Aaron Rodgers news on the stack for myself because, well, I am Wisconsin's native son, and I am still, to this day, in spite of the fact that he went out to the Jets and got hurt almost immediately, an Aaron Rodgers fan. He did very, very well for the franchise that I support with all of my heart. And he did very well in the world, too, honestly. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about Aaron Rodgers. I'm kind of, because I live so close to the Minnesota border at this point, joking with some people that I work with and some people that I know in real life about whether or not Aaron is going to take the plunge and become a Minnesota Viking, you know, following completely in the path of Brett Favre, go to the Jets for one season, and then go to the Vikings. Although the question has been raised on whether or not the season with the Jets even counted because he broke his ankle in like the first 5 minutes of the season. I don't know if that counts or not. We will have to see. But they did release Kirk Cousins in Minnesota fairly recently. So, hey, there's an opening. And Aaron Rodgers is never one to miss an opportunity. So, yeah, that's going to be on things that I like and things that I hate later on today because, well, what they're doing to him is just completely uncalled for in my eyes. But that's what we have for that. We do have plenty of news to go over here today, and it should be no surprise to anybody that I am a fan both of Dio and Kerrang, High Voltage, who put on the album that Killswitch Engage put out that same song, Holy Diver, on. So I have been remembering to do my song lyrics at the beginning again. And I'm trying to reach out past the pool of ones that I've used already. Because I used a bunch of them and it just kept repeating over and over again. And like, there's such a big library of songs out there. I might embarrass myself with some of the songs that I like because I unironically like that one Ashley Tisdale album, and not just because of my crush on Ashley Tisdale. I could borrow from that and most of you probably wouldn't even know who the hell it is. But that is enough about me embarrassing myself. We have a lot of news to go over here today. We're almost as packed on news as we were the other night, on Tuesday night. We might have to skip Ball Out Friday just to catch up with the news or do a Saturday stream. I have no idea what I'm going to do with all of this. I don't know if I'm ready to go back to Daily Show right now or not, honestly. I would like to. I really would like to, but the current work schedule that I have does not condone doing a daily stream. I tried it, and I did it for almost a year, but just as the hours got longer and longer, and I realized that my apartment was getting more and more of a mess, which, I mean, don't look behind me right now. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat, because I do need to, as soon as I'm off stream, I do need to take care of a few things. It's been nonstop for probably about the last 4 or 5 days. And trust me, this little closet I live in reflects that right now. So, what's Jordan Peterson's first rule out there? Go clean your goddamn room! How can you expect to have control over your life if you can't clean your goddamn room? But anyway, again, more embarrassing myself when we've got news to go over. So, get yourself some friends. Word of mouth is always the best advertisement. Pop in, say hi, have a few friends pop in and say hi, get some food, and let's get started. Make sure you guys can chat. You can chat. You're welcome. And I will read your chats between topics, middle of topics, middle of article. Ha! You might even derail me and make me laugh in the midst of everything. So, the more you chat, the more we get promoted out to the front page. And make sure you guys go check out KTZed, who was wonderful enough to join us this past Thursday for the State of Disunion. And as I said on X, who made it suck less. Definitely, thank you for making it suck less. And go check out the Daily Ignoramus as well. Wonderful guy, probably one of my favorite people out there. We could have gone a little bit longer on Tuesday, but I really wanted to see Ignoramus on Joshua Smith. That was a good stream. I'm glad that I got to go over there and do that. But we've got news to get to. We've got to get over here. Let's get the live chat up here, see what you guys are doing. Let's get the news scene up here to see what we've got going on for the last 2 days. And, well, for the last 9 days as well, because we've got some of that too. Where is my news scene? There it is. And let's get started. Where's my live chat? There's my live chat. Well, see, you can only see the packing boxes and what I have out in the chair behind me and the paper bag in front of that. But over to the other side, across from that chair, the couch is definitely where I kind of piled everything up where people can see it. And my bedroom is getting to be about there too. So, yeah, both of those things have to be corrected tonight after we get done the stream. But we got to get into it. The Mogwai says, Mark safe for making dumbass tweets and retweets that could ruin my sports and future political career. I don't even know that Rogers had an interest in politics before any of this. Honestly. You mean Keith Olbermann and Rachel Maddow are going insane because Trump is doing well? Paint me shocked! Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. We'll talk about that in just a bit. I've been known to quote the Plain White Tees. Well, see, I like pop punk, so that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for me. That wouldn't be embarrassing for me. I enjoy that kind of music. You call it a mess? I have to break out a southern term? Bless your heart. Again, the camera is angled at a strategic angle. You can't see what's going on in the worst part of it. For a reason. Alright, let's get started. We're going to start with an outlet that I don't typically use here. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness. Georgia judge dismisses 6 charges in Trump election interference case. And this is coming right out of Georgia, so we're going to go Fannie Willis right off the bat. This is from yesterday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:05 in real time. Let's find out. Long says, hey, hope you're not feeling too much schadenfreude over the Georgia case developments. I know I certainly am, but I also know it's not good for my health. Well, oddly enough, I haven't had a chance to read much about it, so I'm going to be finding out about some of this for the first time right now. Alright, this is from Holly Bailey over at the Washington Post. Where democracy goes to die in darkness. The judge overseeing the election interference case against former President Trump and several allies. I'm already talking like Biden. Holy shit. 11 minutes in and I'm already. The judge overseeing the election interference case against former President Trump and several allies dismissed 6 counts of the sweeping 41-count criminal racketeering indictment, ruling the charges lack specific detail, but declined to dismiss the case. Don't worry, that's coming. The Mogwai says, I want Trump to win in Georgia just to hear him come out and say he kicked her fanny. Cue the rim shot for that one. In a 9-page order issued Wednesday, Fulton County Superior Judge Scott McAfee dismissed 6 charges, alleging Trump and 5 co-defendants had illegally urged elected officials in Georgia to violate their oaths of office in their attempts to overturn the 2020 election loss in the state. Honk honk. As written, these 6 counts contain all the essential elements of the crimes, but fail to allege sufficient detail regarding the nature of their commission, i.e., the underlying felony solicited, McAfee wrote. But, the judge added, this does not mean the entire indictment is dismissed. The 6 counts, which would also implicate former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Trump campaign attorneys Bob Cheeley, John Eastman, and Ray Smith, were related to alleged pressure campaign on elected officials, including Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, members of the Georgia Senate, and then Georgia House Speaker David Ralston to undo Trump's loss in the state. Honk honk. McAfee's order granted the state a 6-month window to resubmit the case to a grand jury or to seek an appeal of this order. Well, see, it's March. 6 months from now, you're going to be sitting basically looking down the barrel of whether or not we're going to be going into Election Day with Trump or not. No, he's not going to say kick her in the fanny. Because she says it, it's Fanny. But if you look at how it's spelled, it's Bonnie. We call her Bonnie. A spokesman for the Fulton County District Attorney, Fannie T. Willis, whose office brought the indictment, declined to comment because, well, she got her ass handed to her at this point. I would love to see what the appeal is going to be, and we know it's going to be appealed. We know it's going to go back up the chain. It's going to do all the things they're going to try to do, partially because they want to keep it in the news. And that is partially why this is out here, because this brings us up to the news. And as we've been saying for the entire Biden presidency, while this hand is over here doing something and you're watching it, this hand is scratching your fucking balls. I don't know why I said scratching my balls when I was clearly scratching my ass, but that is what that is. So, 6 counts dismissed. The Washington Post does not say which 6 counts are dismissed at this point. Hoping that we see some more information in some of the other articles coming up here. CBS News reporting. I will fix my ad blocker next time. I promise. Judge denies one of 2 motions to dismiss Trump documents case hours after hearing. So this is going down into Florida. From Katrina Kaufman, Robert Lagar. There's still a chance, by the way, that this one gets completely dismissed. Not a good chance, but a partial chance. Long says, take it easy there. Trump may well kick Fanny's fanny, but he certainly isn't going to be taking any shots at her rim. No, that's... you went the same direction I was about to. Trump will leave the job of hitting Fanny's rim to Nathan Wade. We are on the same mindset here. I'm surprised you don't consider that degeneracy, by the way. Fort Pierce, Florida. A federal judge in Florida Thursday denied one of former President Trump's motions to dismiss the case in his handling of classified documents hours after he and his lawyers were in court to present their arguments. Judge Cannon denied the motion, which argued that the Espionage Act statute under which Trump was charged was unconstitutionally vague. She suggested in a brief ruling that this was a question that would be best answered in the court of a trial. That's actually a fair assessment of that too, by the way. And she left open the possibility that the questions related to the Espionage Act could be raised in connection with litigation about the instructions a jury would receive at the end of the trial. Although the motion raised arguments that warranted serious consideration, she said the ruling that the resolution depends greatly on contested instructional questions about still fluctuating definitions of statutory terms and phrases, as charged along with at least some disputed factual issues as raised in the motion. Trump contended in his filing that there were many open legal questions about the law known as the Espionage Act. He's got a fair point too, but I actually like the way that Cannon ruled in this. Because if this gets dismissed before trial, then there's no legal precedent to this. And they can't go back and cite a case law for this. If this actually goes to trial, then there will be a set court precedent on how we interpret laws and how they get used and utilized in a court of law. And if the wording is vague, that is the best thing for that, because our law should not be vague. It should be very, very fine and down to the point. There should not be any room for vagaries. Which she has been accusing of violating. Trump's lawyers argue unsettled legal questions amount to an unconstitutional vagueness. Smith rebutted this claim, writing in court papers, Trump's vagueness arguments is meritless. Trump is charged with the unauthorized possession and willful retention of national defense information. But yet, we the common man will never be able to see what's in there. We will never know what it is our friends on the left want to execute a man for. That's by design, by the way. The statute's prohibitions are clear. During Thursday's hearing, Cannon raised the concern that the motion related to the Espionage Act was premature, and she pointed out that declaring a statute unconstitutionally vague was an extraordinary step. Why are we having this as-applied discussion now, given the chance of disputed facts, she asked. She pointed out that the superseding indictment does not take the position that Trump's documents were personal, and Trump is now claiming that he had deemed them personal records before he left office. And again, you and I will never get to see what's in them, so we know whether or not they're personal, or whether or not they are, in fact, something dangerous. And the other problem with this, of course, is for the Espionage Act to apply, or this is how it should be. The Espionage Act is, in fact, not written to make this distinction clear. But the Espionage Act should have a provision for either attempted, successful, or implied dissemination. You should have to have intent. If you're just looking at documents that are locked in a box somewhere and nobody else is going to see them, I don't see where there's a crime. Cannon was also fixated on the timeline when Trump alleged lawful retention of the documents was complete, asking whether that was on January 20th, 2021, which was the day he left office. She explained that a theory in the indictment that Trump's possession of the documents was authorized while he was president, but his possession became unauthorized the moment the presidency ended. She asked Trump's attorney, when does it become unauthorized? Trump lawyer Emil Bove replied that the charges under Statute 793 of the Espionage Act should be dismissed because the government cannot establish his lack of authorization. Trump's very removal of the records constituted an act of designating them to be personal records, he asserted. You know, we the people would still, and again, be much, much, much more able to make the judgment about this if we knew what was in them. And that's a number one, a quick way to piss off a leftoid if you're playing over on X or something, but also a good way to get them to start fumbling and stammering and admit the fact that they have no idea what's in them. They just know what the TV man told them. Ask them outright, point blank, can you show me a PDF of the document? Because none of them can, because none of them have ever seen it. And then ask them with a follow-up of, how do you know what's in it? Oh, because I read the indictment. You've never seen this document. I saw the cover letters. Our government is completely overclassified. There's an equal chance that Melania's chicken Kiev recipe is behind that classified banner. I hope you understand that. The Mogwai says this is the American government, where the votes are made up and the truth doesn't effing matter. You know what's funny about that is I found an Instagram page that is nothing but old skits from Whose Line Is It Anyway, and I have been watching them even years later and decades later in the case of Drew Carey's skits. The humor in those things holds up. I laugh so much when I watch those. I would like to see if there's a way to go back and stream the old episodes again, like we did with the British stuff on Comedy Central, while Drew Carey and co were tearing it up over on ABC and ABC Family. That humor holds up. I don't know if there's any current Whose Line Is It Anyway? I'm pretty sure that stopped in the mid-2010s, I think, when they had the black lady as the host. Well, she was hilarious too, by the way. Let's see. Trump's lawyers and the prosecutors for the special counsel's office argued over the meaning of unauthorized and how it should be applied. Candidates seemed to defend the prosecution's use of dictionary definitions of the term in their motions. She asked Bove, if I deny your motion, how would you put forward jury instructions on the definition of unauthorized? So, that is not dismissed at this point, but there's some question up there. Are they still going? I thought they stopped in like 2015. I thought they were just running reruns on the CW. Alright. Let's look at some cope from Newsweek. Trump's charges being dismissed may actually be bad news. Ooh. From Catherine Fung. Former President Trump had some of the Georgia charges against him dismissed on Wednesday. Let me get rid of some of these tabs so my RAM doesn't cry so much. But it might be too soon for him to celebrate. Scott McAfee, who's presiding over Trump's election interference case, killed 6 of the charges in the sweeping RICO case against the former president and his allies on Wednesday. But the new order suggests McAfee plans to keep Trump's rival, Fulton County DA Fani Willis, on the case, legal analysts said. Willis's office is waiting for McAfee to decide whether or not he will disqualify them for the prosecution based on misconduct allegations filed by Trump's co-defendants. Norm Eisen, a former White House ethics czar, who was counsel to the Democrats in Trump's first impeachment, called Wednesday's ruling a hint that he will not disqualify Willis, which would mean that ethics rules are completely out the window. Eisen told Newsweek that if McAfee had been planning to remove Willis from the case, he wouldn't have taken the time to write such a detailed order because her disqualification would have effectively halted the prosecution. This is not the ruling from Judge McAfee that Trump wanted. Seems like Fani Willis will not be removed from the case. More on that soon. Good news for democracy and those who value the rule of law. Commentator Russell Drew agreed in a post on X, formerly known as Twitter. And Russell Drew, of course, when he says good news for democracy, he means good news for our hegemony. Eisen added the decision to strike down the counts against Trump and his co-defendants may also help him balance the scales if he wants to keep Willis on the case. That's not to say today's order is a definite sign that he's leaning one way or the other, but it does slightly reinforce the view that the applicable law and the evidence do not support disqualification, and the judge will say so, Eisen said. Wednesday's order also kept many of the other charges in the indictment, including the conspiracy charges against Trump. The 6 charges that were squashed were related to efforts to solicit Georgia officials into violating their oaths of office by unlawfully appointing presidential electors. Basically, that means that they can keep things in there, but not have to worry about indicting Democrats after the fact. Because remember, this is not the first time fake slates of electors have been brought forward. Several of them have been done in the past, mostly by our friends on the left. Okay, so we actually have an idea of what they are too. Trump was facing 3 of the drop charges for allegedly soliciting former Georgia House Speaker Dave Ralston and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to violate their oaths of office. Eisen noted the infamous phone call in which Trump asked Raffensperger to find the votes that would allow him to win Georgia was not entirely thrown out of the case. It remains as Act 112 of the RICO conspiracy, although the freestanding charge, count 28, was struck, Eisen said. There's been an interesting theory going around, and I've not been able to verify this on green check verified sources. It's all over the right-wing blogs and places like that, and I know that green check verification is biased towards the left, as it always is. But there has been talk about the fact that, and I didn't know this, the recording was taken in Florida of Donald Trump, and Florida is a 2-party consent state. Meaning that in order to be recorded on the phone call, the Donald himself would have had to have prior knowledge of the fact that it was being recorded and consented to it. Now, given the fact that he was president at the time, I don't know if that actually applies also, because the implication is that the president is to be recorded. But there are also laws regarding the dissemination of it as well. It's going to be a touchy gray area if it's true. And I don't know if that's the case or not. It'd be interesting to see, especially if it came down to trial, where that went. I'm laser focused on that because that would be probably one of the most hilarious political, what's the word I'm looking for? Not motivations, developments. One of the most hilarious political developments that I've seen this entire cycle. Yeah, but the Federalist is not green check verified. I know what you're talking about, and I am citing that. NewsGuard considers the Federalist as a right-wing rag. No matter how well they cite their sources, which they do quite well, in fact. I like reading the Federalist. Unfortunately, I can't use that because of the standards I set for myself on Contemporary. You know what's funny? The Federalist is not green check verified, but the Post Millennial is. I thought that was hilarious. When I ran a Post Millennial article through NewsGuard, yeah, they're green check verified. Alright, speaking of things that are green check verified that should not be, MSDNC, the propaganda rag of the Democrat Party. And this is just basically in here for cope. What Judge McAfee dismissing counts against Trump in Georgia really means. From Jordan Rubin. We got him this time. It's time. We got him. 2 more days, Blue and on. Judge McAfee is ruled in Georgia, but not in the disqualification decision that we've been waiting for. Rather, the judge overseeing the election case in Fulton County dismissed 6 counts on an unrelated order on Wednesday. But while dismissal sounds dramatic, this latest order might not ultimately have much effect on the case against Trump and others. Importantly, the initial 41-count indictment itself, including the powerful RICO charge, isn't dismissed, and even those 6 counts can still be saved. Because McAfee noted that Fannie Willis's office can pursue another indictment that addresses the issue he identified, the state can also seek to appeal his ruling. 2 more days, Blue Anon. 2 more days. We got him this time, just 2 more days. 2 more weeks. We got him. The dismissed counts against Trump and his former lawyers, Rudy Giuliani, his former chief of staff Mark Meadows, and others involve a charge called solicitation of violation of oath by public officer. They include, among other things, the infamous allegations of the Georgia phone call, the perfect phone call. The former president wanted the state official to find votes for him in the 2020 election he lost to Biden. Again, completely not true, and I've listened to that call, by the way, in its entirety. Dual Helix is joined over on Rumble. Sup, contemporizers. You need a houseplant. I know I've said it before. You know what the problem is with having a houseplant? And my mom is taking care of all my carnivorous plants right now. There's no sunlight in this place. Well, direct sunlight. There's indirect sunlight. Because the sun... Well, I guess I could get one for the bedroom window. Because that faces south and it gets sunlight most of the day. But, I mean, that window over there never gets sun. Directly. Because that's west and that's east. So that gets morning sun like when I first wake up. But because the south is over there, there's always a shadow for that window. The one that's behind me. I'd love to have a houseplant. I would love to have my carnivorous garden back. But I gotta buy a house first. And I'm working on that. The new house fund is behind me. For right now, I just have a hard cider behind me. You can't even see that, by the way. I need to fix that. Put some of that over here on this counter instead of over behind where my chair is. By the way, speaking of, how is the blizzard over in Colorado? Dual Helix. I almost got up and just took an impromptu vacation and went to Zion over the through the week. And I stopped myself because I knew that there were 2 more auto pays that were coming out of this paycheck. And I don't get paid again until midnight tonight. But then I saw the blizzard in Colorado. I'm like, shit, I would have been driving right through that. Alright. So what's the issue that led McAfee to dismiss these counts? Basically, the judge found the indictment wasn't specific enough when it came to the alleged oath violations at issues as written. These 6 counts contain all the essential elements of the crimes, but failed to allege sufficient detail regarding the nature of their commission, i.e. the underlying felony solicited, the judge wrote. Crucially, he pointed out that his ruling doesn't apply to the corresponding conduct allegations in the racketeering charge. That's one of the reasons his ruling doesn't doom the case. 2 more weeks, Blue Anon. 2 more weeks. We got him this time. There's some cope for you. There's more cope down here, by the way. Alright, from the Dissociated Press. Kemp signs Georgia law reviving prosecutor sanctions panel. Democrats fear it's aimed at Fannie Willis. Let's take a moment to appreciate this song with the Wizard of Oz turning 85 years old. And this version, this cover, by the way, is from DJ Cutman, who puts on the Game Chops channel that we hear in the background every week with Contemporary, and a guitarist named Button Masher, who's also, I think, kind of fun to listen to. But the ukulele version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow is still probably my favorite. The ukulele version, Judy Garland, and this one. The original, of course. All right, let's read what the Dissociated Press has to say from Jeff Amy. Brian Kemp signed a law Wednesday that it lets a state commission begin operating with powers to discipline and remove prosecutors, potentially disrupting Fulton County DA Fannie Willis's prosecution of the former president. This legislation will help us ensure rogue and incompetent prosecutors are held accountable if they refuse to uphold the law. Well, that and the fact that there's ethics violations every fucking where, man. Kemp said before signing the bill, flanked by Republican legislative leaders. As we know all too well, crime has been on the rise across the country and especially prevalent in cities, where prosecutors are giving criminals a free pass or failing to put them behind bars due to lack of professional conduct. Though Kemp signed legislation last year creating Prosecuting Attorneys Qualifications Commission, it was unable to begin operating after the state Supreme Court in November refused to approve rules governing its conduct. The justices said they have grave doubts about their ability to regulate the duties of DA beyond the practice of law. Today's measures removes the requirement for Supreme Court approval. Boom! The measure is likely to face renewed legal challenges. Of course it is. 4 DAs dropped their previous lawsuit challenging the commission after the Supreme Court set it aside. The law would require DAs and solicitors general who prosecute lower-level cases in some counties to evaluate each case on its own, instead of declining to prosecute classes of offenses. Opponents say it would mean prosecutors couldn't use their discretion. Republican Speaker John Burns of Newington said the House's efforts have not been directly aimed at Willis, who's already facing an effort in court to have her removed from the Trump prosecution over a romantic relationship she had with the special prosecutor she employed in the case. That is false. That is over the money laundering and use of state funds for personal advancement, running them through the prosecutor she was screwing at the time. Republicans cited other instances of alleged prosecutor misconduct, including occasions in the past when Democrats supported the idea of a prosecutor oversight panel after the killing of a black man, Ahmaud Arbery, near Brunswick. Which is a fine example to bring up because a part of the reason that entire thing happened was because former police officers were acting with impunity because they were under the impression that they can do whatever they want. The police will just let them go because, hey, we know you guys. That's the perfect example to use of this. For us in the House, our focus is not on any one person, not in any one situation, Burns told the reporters after the law was signed. It's about asking the folks that are elected, just like me, to do their jobs and protect the citizens of the state. But Democrats say Republicans are trying to override the will of Democratic voters and are inviting abuse by creating a commission without some other body reviewing its rules. I'm not opposed to having another body review its rules, by the way. I'm not opposed to that either. Everything should be subject to oversight. Let me drop this back just a touch. That's better. That one recording was just a little bit loud. And I could see it on the monitor. I have my headphones turned like way down so I couldn't hear it in my headphones. But I can see the bouncing yellow line over there. Seeing it was creeping up to where I was talking at. So we'll drop that back just a little bit. Alright. Let's see. Helix says, I shoveled twice. It snowed like 2-inch fluff balls. I'm in, and I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say that name either. Used to be North Glen. I'll say previous addresses, but I won't say current locations. The Nuggets got hammered. And then he says, the ukulele guy, he went mega viral. And then he died. F. That was still a good cover of that song. I like that cover of that song. I almost bought a ukulele because of that song, but I gotta reteach myself guitar first, and bass. I'm gonna find a bass and reteach myself how to play that too. I haven't played bass in longer than I haven't played guitar. And I learned bass first. The law was enacted even as the state Senate created a special investigative committee that Republicans say will be used to probe whether Willis has used state money to benefit herself by employing attorney Nathan Wade as special prosecutor in the Trump case. That committee has already heard testimony from Ashley Merchant, the defense attorney for co-defendant Michael Roman, who first raised the questions about Wade. So, I don't know if it's aimed at Fani Willis. I don't think it is. It might be. There's a possibility. But we will continue to watch this. Touch briefly on this one from Newsweek. Going back over to the main chat side, which is mostly Twitch. Vong says, NewsGuard is communist propaganda that isn't even deserving of being used to line a birdcage. Right, but if I use NewsGuard certified sources, I don't get the accusation of, you're just a right-wing blog, which, I mean, I kind of am, but I pretty much use their own sources against them. And they can't come back and say that I'm only using right-wing friendly sources. I'm only using Fox News. That's part of the reason I did it that way. They hang themselves. I probably shouldn't use that terminology on YouTube, but they hang themselves with their own articles. And we see that week in and week out. Mogwai says, let's take a minute to appreciate the song with the Wizard of Oz, turning 85 years old. The Flying Monkeys screwed with my mind as a kid. It is indeed all about that bass. Alright, Fani Willis makes a fatal mistake in Donald Trump case. From Catherine Fung again. Judge McAfee, who's presiding over former President Trump's election interference case, handed Trump a win on Wednesday, killing 3 charges against the former president. In a new ruling, McAfee quashed 6 charges in the sweeping RICO case. We know about that. McAfee ruled the allegations made against the defense were not detailed enough. I want to hear about Fani's mistake. We read all this in the last Newsweek article. Alright, the ruling is a blow to Fani Willis, who is currently awaiting McAfee to decide whether her office will be disqualified from the case entirely. Several of the defendants have brought a motion against Willis, arguing she has shown a conflict of interest by hiring her boyfriend as a special prosecutor. Willis and Wade maintained their relationship did not begin until after his appointment. That kind of makes it worse, honestly. Wednesday's order will leave intact many of the other charges in the indictment, including conspiracy to commit election fraud, conspiracy to defraud the state, and making false statements and writings. McAfee also said the prosecutors could seek a new indictment on the charges he dismissed. That does not mean the entire indictment is dismissed, the judge wrote. The state may also seek re-indictment, supplementing these 6 counts. So, not a lot of mistake off of that. They're not even talking about a fatal mistake in this. Just that it wasn't detailed enough. I want my time back for this article, Newsweek. More Cope. MSDNC again. If Judge McAfee disqualifies Fani Willis, a lengthy delay, at least, may follow. Again with Jordan Rubin. A decision could come any minute from Scott McAfee that changes the course of Trump's criminal persecution in Georgia, possibly forever. If the judge disqualifies Fani Willis, that doesn't mean the case is dismissed, but it would jeopardize the election subversion case from moving forward and would, at minimum, cause more delay in the case that doesn't even have a trial date as it is. McAfee has previously said he intends to rule by Friday, and that will be one of the most interesting sites that we see. The reason the qualification would at least cause further delay is that Willis's whole office would be off the case, requiring a new one to be appointed. That task falls to the state panel called the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. As an example of how long that process can take, look no further than the previous disqualification. In July 2022, Willis was blocked from pursuing charges against Burt Jones, then a state senator and now Georgia's lieutenant governor, who faced possible indictment in the fake elector scheme. Willis had hosted a fundraiser for a candidate who ultimately ran against Jones. All this time later, a new prosecutor still has not been assigned. And that's just one person. The complex Trump case involves not only a former president and the presumptive GOP presidential nominee, but more than a dozen other defendants who they are hoping and praying will flip and just say, I'll say whatever you want, don't put me in jail next to these people that I don't want to be anywhere near. If Willis were to be disqualified, it's difficult to see the case getting a new prosecutor quickly. Oh no, we won't be able to persecute! Especially if the Jones delay isn't any indication. Even if it does, how that hypothetical new prosecutor would handle the case remains to be seen. Especially given the fact that he is appointed by the Lieutenant Governor's office. A Republican. Helix says, I play the fiddle. Awesome. John from Porch Boys also plays violin. Show me the sheet music, I can make the sound. I can't read music, so that's all double awesome for you. That I cannot read. Sometimes you're not allowed to say the truth. Yeah, I can't read that on YouTube. All right, more stuff. Jim Jordan getting into it. Jim Jordan threatens Fannie Willis with contempt over subpoena on federal grants. From Rebecca Beach. We are not getting done with all this tonight. I am 47 minutes in, and we're still on the first topic. Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan threatened a possible contempt proceeding against Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis over a subpoena requesting information about her use of federal funds. Willis's office has already sent information in response to the February subpoena, but the GOP leader complained she failed to turn over documents related to the allegations from a now terminated employee who flagged another former employee's desire to misuse federal grant money. We appreciate that you've produced a narrow set of documents in response to the subpoena, but your compliance with the subpoena to date is deficient, Jordan wrote in the letter. If you fail to do so, the committee will consider taking further action, such as the invocation of contempt of Congress proceedings, which, as we remember from the last Congress, doesn't mean jack shit. The allegations center on a former employee to Willis who said the district attorney fired her shortly after she raised concerns about how a Willis campaign aide turned county employee hoped to use federal grants for items outside the scope of a youth violence and gang prevention program. So this technically, I don't think has anything to do with the case, but still it's being made public because it's Fannie Willis. And she's the one who's going to get the evil orange man. I need to oil this chair again. Holy crap, it's noisy. It's not clear that the federal funds in question were ultimately spent inappropriately. The Hill has to say that, because it's against Democrats. In a recording of the whistleblower's conversations with Willis, the DA does not dispute that the other employees' desire to spend the grant money on laptops and swag would be inappropriate. Willis has denied any wrongdoing when the subpoena was first issued in February. Well, we'll see, but let's be realistic. A contempt of Congress means absolutely nothing. It means zero. Question was raised for you, Dual Helix, on the Twitch side, which I have to be the go-between here. Were you ever challenged to a fiddle battle by a demon in a southern state? I do not believe that John was, so we gotta throw the question to Helix. I know that John of the Porch Boys never has been. All right, and the last one we have on Fannie Willis is that Alina Habba, Trump's lawyer, who I think was having second thoughts about leaving, but now has a second wind. Now she's confident. Now she's going to go back and roast Fannie Willis. Let's listen.
President Trump on the team on several of these cases. Alina, welcome. Good to have you here. Good afternoon to you. What's your reaction to what happened today in Georgia?
I wish that all the counts had been dropped, because that's probably what should have been. I mean, at least it was a step in the right direction. It goes to the sloppiness of, frankly, the prosecutors down there. We know that that's the case, and more importantly, that this should not have been brought in general. The attorney handling this case put out a statement that I think says it all. And at the end of the day, remember, we've got a prosecutor here who's currently being questioned about her own ethical obligations, her ability to even stay on this case. I'm going to defer to this judge to make the right decision, but today was a good step in the right direction.
What do you think it means for whether or not he will decide to remove Fani Willis from this case? What does your gut tell you on this, Alina?
I don't think it's indicative necessarily of his actions in terms of Fani. I think that Fani, whatever she calls herself, she's got her own issues that are outside of this case that clearly have permeated her decision-making ability. And as I've always said, as my clients always said, we know that these were motivated by one thing and one thing only, and that's election interference that's trying to bring Trump down. And on the heels of last night, I think that it's very clear that the American people are seeing it for what it is and are going to stand up and not take it very much.
I want to get your thoughts, even though you're not directly involved in this. You're part of the larger legal team representing the former president. But the first case that is set to go to trial is in New York City here on March 25th under Judge Merchan. And it deals with the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels. That's what the charge is in this case, and that it was diverted in the way that it was paid through legal fees. Do you think that case is going to get underway on March 25th? And how does the former president feel about this one that is likely to happen before, right in the middle of the election season?
Who cares? He's already sealed up the nomination.
A couple of good questions there. Number one, do I think it's going to go ahead? Well, really, it shouldn't. We have an immunity defense that's currently up on the Supreme Court. It's going to be made a decision. It should be stayed until all of those decisions are made, number one, and we'll see what happens there. Number two, let's remember what this is, Martha. Stormy Daniels is probably one of the oldest legendary let's get Trump cases that we saw come out. Her attorney, I believe, is in prison or...
All right, so she's moved off the Fani Willis side of things, but I mean, yeah, everything should have been dismissed. These are people who are running on, hey, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. Just vote us in and we're going to get him. That's Letitia James. That's Fani Willis. That's Alvin Bragg. But hey, let's not worry about what happens here. We only do that in communist countries, right? Right? All right. Another outlet that I don't use very often on Contemporary, the New York Times, a former newspaper. This is on the TikTok ban, which I'm going to surprise a lot of people with my thoughts on that one. From the New York Times, a former newspaper, House passes bill to force TikTok sale from Chinese owner or ban the app. From Sapna Maheshwari, David McCabe, Annie Carney. And for whatever reason, some of this is written in Chinese. Those are Chinese characters, not Japanese. Well, Mr. Khan, are you Chinese or Japanese? The House on Wednesday passed a bill with broad bipartisan support that would force TikTok's Chinese owner to either sell the hugely popular video app or have it banned in the United States. The move escalates a showdown between Beijing and Washington over the control of a wide range of technologies that could affect national security, free speech, and the social media industry. Republican leaders fast-tracked the bill through the House with limited debate, and it passed on a lopsided vote of 352 to 65, reflecting widespread backing for legislation that would take direct aim at China in an election year. China. The action came despite TikTok's efforts to mobilize its 170 million U.S. users against the measure amid the Biden admin's push to persuade the lawmakers that Chinese ownership of the platform poses a grave national security risk to the United States, including the ability to meddle in elections. Yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors with this. The result was a bipartisan coalition behind that measure that included Republicans who defied former President Trump in supporting it, and Democrats who also fell in line behind a bill that Biden has said he would sign, because of course he would. because it gives authority to go back after other social media applications. The bill faces a difficult road to passage in the Senate, where Chuck Schumer and the majority leader has been non-committal about bringing it to the floor for a vote, and where some lawmakers have vowed to fight it, even if it passes the Senate and becomes law, is likely to face legal challenges. Good. And again, probably surprising a lot of people watching this. Good. I hope it does. But Wednesday's vote was the first time a measure could widely ban TikTok for consumers was approved by a full chamber of Congress. The app has always been under threat since 2020, with lawmakers increasingly arguing Beijing's relationship with TikTok's parent company ByteDance raises national security risks. Bills aimed at getting ByteDance to sell TikTok to non-Chinese owners within 6 months. The president would sign off on the sale if it resolved national security concerns. If that sale did not happen, the app would be banned. Alright, let's talk about the TikTok ban and how asinine it is. Now, the first thing is first. When we go up to the government trying to banish things, let's be realistic. How well has that worked in the past? I mean, you're welcome to try. But typically when we see things get banned, assault weapons, drugs, alcohol, it seems that when there's demand for something, a market opens up for it. A sort of dark colored market opens up for it. Why do you think this would be any different? I don't understand where the people who are making these laws think that this is going to be any different. This is going to, between VPNs, which can put your location in Norway or in China itself or anything else. They ban, wait, what about no? I don't know where you're going with that, Mogwai. But regardless, now, I am sympathetic to governments like, I believe it was North Dakota has a ban on state usage. No, North Dakota actually, I think, has one of the states out there in the West has a ban on use of TikTok entirely. It can't be sold in app stores within the state. But again, you throw up your VPN and say, hey, I'm not in North Dakota anymore, I'm in Colorado. And all of a sudden, the problem has gone away. But I have no problem with governments, and there have been a few out in the West again. Wyoming, I believe, and Idaho have banned the use on state-owned phones. Which is fine, that's your prerogative. You own that device. You can decide what goes onto it. It is Montana? Okay. I thought it was North Dakota for whatever reason. But North Dakota is right next to Montana. If you own the device, you get a say in what apps get put on it. But as a private citizen, this has implications against freedom of speech. This has implications against young Democrats, by the way, which I can't believe that Biden is ready to go back and sign this. That seems like absolutely 100% against his own interests. I'm the president of the youth at 81 years old. Come on, man. I don't use TikTok. And in full honesty, like I know, because I'm streaming this to Instagram right now. Yes, my data is getting bundled up and sent to China. That's not a big concern. I'm not a huge national security risk. There are people in the Democrat Party that would like you to think that I'm a huge national security risk, but I am not a national security risk. That data is getting packaged, bundled up, and sold, and it does go to China as it is, to make sure that that they can go and continue to pay their bills. And the Zuckerberg needs his data. But the vast majority of people who are using this app, it's not going to affect the way the government runs. And most of your secrets are not going to get out there. For the most part, many of them aren't going to be allowed to go run for office or get some jobs out there because they're acting stupid on a social media app. A lot of the way that most of us did when the Boomer book first came out. I know people still, to this day. I can actually use this because, no, I'm not going to. Even though it's not her real name. But I know somebody who used a completely fake name that had to do with the mountain in the Grinch. Because of all the wild time she had bartending in one of the more wild bars in Kenosha. And still in the Boomer book, she uses that name. She doesn't use it on Instagram. But she uses it on the Boomer book, so nobody, potential professional employer, can go back and look at her Facebook feed and see all the degeneracy that happened when we were all in our 20s. And there was a lot of that. And you're seeing the stupid degeneracy as well that's going to be used, and your employers are going to search. But that's between you and your employers. That's your own doing, and that's to some extent natural selection. The government banning is not going to change that. The kids are going to find somewhere else to be completely stupid and post their 1-minute videos. Instagram Reels exist. Facebook Shorts exist. YouTube Shorts exist. They're going to do it no matter what. And several companies have offered alternatives to that. I don't care for short-form content. I know KTZed is pushing me to make short-form content, which I will probably sit down and talk with her on Saturday and figure out what it is that I have to do about that and how to get it edited and where I find the time to do that. But short-form content does help out a lot, especially in the era of TikTok and YouTube Shorts. But, I mean, the stuff is not going away. I don't know what it is they plan to accomplish with this. If you want to ban TikTok on government phones, that's your prerogative. It's your phone. You own it. But what some 21-year-old staffer does in the midst of this, it's no business of the government's. And I think, this is just me, I think some of the elders in the Biden admin, not the Gen Zers that are pulling most of the progressive strings, but some of the older neoliberals that are trying to keep everything going, looked at what happened when Biden finally joined TikTok and suddenly got harangued and harassed by mobs and mobs and mobs and armies of pro-Palestinian protesters, and said, okay, yeah, no, we're going to ban this. But that is my take on TikTok. That's a particularly long rant to go back and say that while I hate this app, I don't see the government having a business in trying to ban it, and they're just going to make it cooler anyway. Look at national prohibition. Look at the 18th Amendment. The Mogwai says Biden doesn't like it because you can't watch Matlock on it. The Mogwai says 90% is tweens doing god-awful dancing. Yeah, that's the other reason I don't use it. I don't want to look at girls that young. The Mogwai says, I offered my date short-form content. She wasn't happy. And rants equals Saturday show. We might get there. It might happen. I don't want to do a Saturday show just because I have to work that morning. And I don't feel like I'll be giving you the best J. Edgar you can get. And I don't think that'd be fair to you, but I mean, we've still got this stack over here to go through, so let's keep going. I'm going to skip this one just because it's the same information that was in the New York Times, a former newspaper. The Hill gives us 5 things that you need to know about the potential TikTok ban. That is very much appreciated, Vong. I know that between you and Seawall, you've been able to get me good open source software because Seawall was the one that got me in touch with GIMP, which is what I used to make all the stickers on the Twitch side and on the Discord. And I know that there's a good learning curve to that. For me, it's not about not knowing how to do it, because I have Lightworks too that I could do shorts with too. It's finding the time when you work 60 some hours a week. It's part of the reason we're not doing a daily show anymore. It's just because there are only so many hours in a day, and you got to eat and sleep at some point. All right, 5 things to know about the potential TikTok ban. I do appreciate that, though. We will talk about that. Now, if I could find somebody to contract to do the shorts for me, because from what KTZed says, it's as easy as taking clips from your streams. That would also be very helpful. All right, let's keep going. The House voted overwhelmingly in favor of legislation Wednesday that could potentially ban TikTok in the U.S. If enacted, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act would force ByteDance, TikTok's China-based parent company, to sell the app or be banned from U.S. app stores and web hosting services. Here are 5 things to know. 1. TikTok is not yet banned. That's right, the House cannot act unilaterally. 2. The bill needs to pass the Senate. That's not 2 different topics, that's the same topic. The TikTok bill needs to pass the Senate where it faces greater resistance. Chuck U. Schumer said Wednesday the Senate will review the legislation when it comes over from the House, but did not commit to a course of action. The top members of Senate Intelligence, Mark Warner and Marco Rubio, touted the strong bipartisan vote in the House. That doesn't make it right. That B word, bipartisan, doesn't make it right. In fact, typically when you hear the word bipartisan, it's government officials who fucking hate you, continuing to hate you. And they look forward to working together to get this bill passed with the Senate and signed into law. Rand Paul described the bill as a draconian measure that stifles free expression, tramples constitutional rights, and disrupts the economic pursuits of millions of Americans, while Ed Markey argued the privacy issues exist beyond TikTok. And that, by the way, right there is part of why I think that they're going to not only go after like Rumble and maybe even the Chans, or Gab, or things that are, how do I want to say, not favorable to them, but also at some point go after the Boomer book and things like that. Communication is a good thing. I could go on a complete rant about that. Might actually go into things that I like tonight on an impromptu rant because, well, I found something out that happened. And I might reveal a personal detail about myself. Biden said he would sign the bill. Again, he also got curb stomped by pro-Palestinian protesters on TikTok. As we have said, this bill is important, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters aboard Air Force One. ByteDance would have roughly 5 months to sell TikTok before a ban takes place. We've got more information on Mnuchin later off of that, but he, I think, is trying to get it bought. And a ban may face court challenges, because it might actually be unconstitutional, stifling freedom of speech in the First Amendment. That'd be an interesting one to see where the court took that as well. Speaking of degeneracy on the channel, the Mogwai. I wonder if Lindsey Graham helped the Mogwai write that comment. Bipartisan is Latin for joint sides fucking you in the ass. Thank you, the Mogwai. But TikTok it might be on its way out. CNBC reporting Steve Mnuchin is putting together an investor group to buy TikTok. Well, first you have to have ByteDance sell. And that might be a bigger problem than you think. Academic pursuits of many Americans, like what, Rand? Studying the cup sizes of underage girls? Yeah, we're not going to go over that. I might pop into the Discord later for voice. And if I do, I will bring up a very, very disturbing mnemonic device that one of my teachers brought up in school. It's so disturbing I cannot say it on YouTube or Twitch, and I know I can't say it on YouTube or Twitch. It's that bad. And it kind of goes right on the same line of what Yu Zhangbong just said. Alright. Rohan Goswami and Jesse Pound reporting. Former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin is building an investor group to acquire ByteDance's TikTok. As a bipartisan piece of legislation winding its way through Congress threatens its continued existence in the U.S. The House passed a bipartisan bill that, if signed into law, would force ByteDance to either divest its flagship global app or face an effective ban on TikTok within the U.S. I think the legislation should pass, and I think it should be sold, Mnuchin, who leads Liberty Strategic Capital, told CNBC's Squawk Box on Thursday, while rubbing his hand together. Yes, it should be sold. It's a great business, and I'm going to put together a group to buy TikTok. There's common ground between Liberty and ByteDance. Masa Son SoftBank Vision Fund invested in ByteDance in 2018 and is also a limited partner in Mnuchin's Liberty Strategic. The bill is now headed for the Senate, where its future remains uncertain. There was talk that Rumble might go back out and buy it, which would put it in an interesting position. Because remember, the vast majority of people who are on TikTok believe that Rumble is a Nazi site that's infested with Nazis and fascists who hate them and want to go put these Gen Zers in camp. I might have to buy more popcorn if that goes through. I would love to see what happens with that. I mean, you would see that stock tank in a second if that happened. Because all these people will be running to get off of it. Because they think that their little dance moves would cause the evil fascist Republicans to go try to put them in camps. Because they believe that kind of shit. Because the liberal college professors told them to. Again, I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid. And I think it's just going to create a black market. I kind of get entertained by some of the people who think that that this is going to work, by the way. And if it gets banned, that means that the government's stifling free speech and it's actually never going to get used again. I think that's hilarious. Alright, the last couple here before we get into the leftover from Tuesday. Let's see. An hour and 14 minutes into this recording, not the stream. We're an hour and 18 into the stream. But an hour and 14 into the recording. And we're just getting to the stuff that we had left over from Thursday. I can do time management. Very well, in fact. Alright. Dollar Tree and Family Dollar are permanently closing over 1,000 locations. Here's the last time you can shop at the discount stores. But don't worry, the economy is fantastic. Everything is great. How many jobs do you think that's taking away? I bet you it's in the 20s of thousands. Bet you that won't get reported in the latest job numbers. Catherine Rodriguez from New Jersey, advanced media for NewJersey.com. Dollar Tree has set plans to close about 1,000 of its stores nationwide over the next several years. The discount retailer made the announcement in its 2023 fourth quarter financial report, revealing it will close 600 of its Family Dollar stores in the first half of 2024. will close another 370 and 30 namesake locations over the next few years, allowing each of these leases to expire. Dollar Tree has not yet announced which stores will permanently close. The company decided on the closures after completing an extensive review of its current stores to determine which ones to close, relocate, or rebrand based on several factors. Those included current market conditions and individual store performance. I wonder how much of that is robbery. The announcement follows the opening of 219 stores in the fourth quarter of 2023, bringing its number of new store openings to 641 last year. The Dollar Tree operates around 16,774 stores across 48 states and 5 Canadian provinces. These include Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, and Family Dollar Dollar Tree combo stores. The closings follow a wave of store closures from several other popular retailers in recent months, including Rite Aid, The Body Shop, and Macy's. But don't worry, everything is fine. The economy is great. How dare you listen to the news say that there might be problems with the economy? Realistically, when you're in a bad economy and the dollar store has to go start closing things up, you might want to see if you can secure a second line of income, because it ain't getting any better, folks. WKOW out of Madison says mass Family Dollar closings affecting Wisconsin small town, and I'm kind of curious which one it is. Fenimore, I know where that is. That's over here. That's actually not really far from here. Closer to Madison, but it's not that far from here. Nearly 1,000 Family Dollar stores will be closing around the country. Dollar Tree, who owns Family Dollar, announced Wednesday that the store will begin closing this year in a statement. One Wisconsin Family Dollar, located on Lincoln Avenue in Fenimore, is set to close in days on March 23rd, leaving shoppers in a tough spot. Well, no, they'll have to go to Woodman's or whatever corporate grocery store is in their town. And the corporate stores are expensive. Like around here we have Festival. I try not to go to Festival as much as I can, just because Woodman's is like 2/3 of the price. And most people watching this know that I will not step foot in a Walmart. Yet Dollar General is opening more stores because they don't apply a workforce in them. I have a friend who no longer works for, and I don't remember which dollar company it is, but she used to work for one of the dollar companies. I had to ask her what she knows about this. I think that people with small kids or growing families, even, they need stores like this. It helps us save, said Angie Griswold, a frequent shopper at the Fenimore Family Dollar. I shop at these kinds of stores quite often and save money. I can and to shop local, and this closing is really sad, actually. I wonder if the one in Redacted, where I used to live, is closing, because there was one there. And I don't know how it was profitable, honestly, because it is really expensive to lease commercial in that town. Employees at this location were notified of the closing last month, but Randy Bender, owner of the building, knew the lease wasn't going to be renewed as far back as November, he said in a statement. Yeah, this is going to be hard on people. It is. And these stores, I mean, they affect communities, especially the small ones. If you're familiar with the Janesville, Wisconsin area, which I'm not really self-doxing myself of where I used to live because I never said the town that I lived in, but I said that it was close to Janesville. There are a few people who actually know what the town is, but everybody knows it was close to Janesville. But if you're running from Janesville out to the next big town going west, Monroe, you're going up Highway 11 in the middle of a farm field, and there is a subdivision behind it, but you can't see it through the hill. But just in the middle of a random farm field, there's a Dollar General. Or Dollar Tree? Now I can't remember which one it is. I can see it. I can see the hill it comes over. It was a Dollar Tree. Just in the middle of a random farm field, you would think. Again, because with the hill that's there, you can't see the subdivision behind it, but... yeah, middle of nowhere. There's just this random Dollar Tree. And that community is affected. Now they have to go 25 minutes to Janesville if they want anything, any sort of food. And I mean, there's not a gas station or anything within quite a while either. It affects them for fuel no matter what, but like you can't run over and grab a 7-Up if your stomach's feeling queasy or something like that. It's a sad day in affairs, but hey, they'll still tell us that the economy's going great. Hey, look, it's me. All right, let's keep moving. We've got more stuff to go over, actually. More MSDNC, oddly enough. Breaking. Mitch McConnell endorses Donald Trump. I don't know who else he was going to endorse, but he has endorsed Donald Trump because there's nobody else in the race.
You have news on an endorsement for Trump?
A big one indeed. Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, endorsing Donald Trump, the presumptive nominee. Mark Murray here with me. Mitch McConnell, who just days ago, last week, I guess, said that he is going to step down as leader at the end of this year, but stay in the Senate, and recognizing that it is now Donald Trump's Republican Party. Behind the scenes, he's also mourning the death of his sister-in-law. It's been a very difficult time medically for him as well. But the reality is more political than medical. He would press on. That's the Mitch McConnell that we've covered for decades, you and I. How important is it for Donald Trump that Mitch McConnell, who had been really the holdout among the Republicans?
It really isn't. And once they're done hoping and coping, I'll explain to you why it doesn't matter.
In the Senate is now basically throwing in the towel.
Yeah, Andrew, it's really instructive on how the party starts to kind of come together, and even parts that aren't necessarily fans of former President Donald Trump, that with 8 months to go, that as time goes on and the sights become this is going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, how Republicans go back to their corners and Democrats go back into theirs. And when it comes to Mitch McConnell, do note that it's just not, he's not the only recent endorsement coming from the Senate side who's been kind of critical of Donald Trump. We saw John Thune do the exact same thing. And so I do think that that is a suggestion eventually about how Nikki Haley comes.
I have no desire to know how Nikki Haley comes. I've got a feeling it has something to do with a man that's not her husband. What does this mean for Trump? Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. What it means is that Mitch McConnell was backed into a corner because there was nobody else to endorse, so he would either have to alienate his Kentucky coalition, who is largely in the tank for Trump, and endorse a Democrat, or just swallow his pride and say, oh, you know what? I think he's the Republican nominee and there's nobody else running, so I think I'm just going to go and endorse him, okay? Before he goes and trails off into obsolescence, realistically. He doesn't care, and again, this is completely meaningless. People are thinking that this is just some big end of the world and the Republicans are going to come together and become fascistic and everybody that they don't like is in camps. As if the Democrats have been calling for that for the last 3 years. Because of Mitch McConnell's endorsement. No. No, Mitch McConnell is going to come in and say, Yes, I think that he will be a fine president, and continue to work behind the scenes to make sure that none of the people who believe in his brand of conservatism make it to the end of the line in congressional, Senate races, and even in local races. Pelosi, though, couldn't help but weighing in the stupidest way possible. Pelosi calls McConnell's Trump endorsement sad, professional tragedy. From Philip Timotija. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi slammed Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's endorsement of former President Trump, calling it sad, professional tragedy, given their history. Pelosi acknowledged that over the years she and McConnell were able to find common ground on some issues because they're realistically part of the same club, part of the same team, and that team is against you. The Mogwai says Haley comes too by using foreign aids. Just saying. Yeah, I don't want to know how Haley comes. But the former speaker stated that it's sad to see him support Trump after the upper chamber was so close to removing him from office for his alleged role in the January 6th selfie fest on the Capitol. For him to come to know how bad the president's predecessor was on all this, and then come to the conclusion that he would endorse him when we thought he was going to convict him. The word was he was close to the conviction, and now he's endorsing, Pelosi said during a Friday appearance on MSDNC's Morning Joe. Well, to that, again, I say, cope harder, and it doesn't matter anyway. I've said my piece on Mitch McConnell. Some shakeup. Retiring and not running again. First to not running again from the New York Post. Matt Rosendale won't run for re-election after death threat and false and defamatory rumors, which I think is the worst fucking thing you can do. Because it tells them that it works. It was the same thing I said to the DeSantis folks. When they first started jumping on the train of, well, I can't get behind Donald Trump because he's a convicted felon. He's going to be convicted. He's on charge for 91 counts. Again, with no conviction. He's been charged with all these accounts. I can't support a charged and accused criminal. You fucking moron. Stop showing them what works. Now, I understand you are going to have to be a thick-skinned individual to be in politics, especially as a Republican, where people can come together and gin up a support crowd to get a bunch of their people to send you numerous death threats, anthrax, a bunch of things. These are things you have to be prepared for before you step into that arena. There is a reason I don't use my last name on stream or on X. There is a full-on reason for that, because, and I'll tell you right off the bat, my mom and dad did not ask to be in this arena. I did. If you want to send a death threat to me, 2 year or worse. Trust me, there's little you can do to me that I didn't try to do to myself already. That's all I'm going to go into that. But you can't be harder on me than I've already been to myself. Trust me when I say that. But leave my family out of it. But the hardest part about this for me is stop showing these people what works. Stop showing these people what's going to make you tuck down, put your tail between your legs, and run away scared. Because they're going to use it. From Victor Nava. Matt Rosendale announced Friday he will no longer seek re-election for his House seat after facing a death threat and false and defamatory rumors alleging he impregnated a young staffer. If they can't produce the baby, then fuck them. The Montana Republican, one of 8 GOP House members who voted with Democrats to oust former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy last October, claims that he has been subjected to severe retribution for willing to try and force true reforms in Congress. Rosendale, 63, ended a short-lived Senate campaign last month after former President Trump endorsed his primary opponent. He says that's when his problems began. Well, I hate to tell you this, but a lot of that was leftoids who went on to X as soon as you were done and made a brand new handle that said MAGAFan427. Or, in what they actually think about Donald Trump, probably made a handle that said MAGAFan1488. And continued to make the death threats. Upon withdrawing from that race, and again at the urging of many, including several of the current candidates, I filed to run for re-election to my current seat, Rosendale said in a statement. Since that announcement, I've been forced to have law enforcement visit my children because of a death threat against me, and false and defamatory rumors against me and my family, he added. This has taken a serious toll on me and my family. Former Senator Heidi Heitkamp revealed in a podcast last month she heard a little rumor that the Montana Republican knocked up a young staffer and may be forced to resign. Again, stop fucking showing these people what works, you moron. Just a little rumor, I think the GOP caucus may lose a member in the next couple days, Heitkamp said during an appearance on Talking Feds with the Harry Lipman podcast. Might be the congressman from Montana. And again, I remind you, produce the baby or shut the fuck up. I'm glad Rosendale's gone, that he's not seeking re-election. If you're going to be a pussy and let what every little thing happens affect what you do, then you don't deserve to be in the Congress. Get out of there and let somebody take your seat that'll look back at these people and say, shut the fuck up. You think Democrats would run and hide if you started a rumor about them? No, they would do exactly what I said. Produce the baby or shut up. And then they'd get the mainstream media to go back and tell you the same thing. Ken Buck, on the other hand, is also out from CNN. GOP Rep Ken Buck to leave Congress at the end of next week. So, like a week from tomorrow. This is interesting because I don't know what actually pushed him out of here. I got a feeling it's the same thing as what pushed Matt Rosendale, but Matt Rosendale is at the very least waiting until the end of his term. From Claire Ferran. Ken Buck of Colorado, a hardline conservative who's clashed with his own party at times, announced Tuesday that he will leave Congress at the end of next week. Buck criticized dysfunction on Capitol Hill, discussing his decision to leave, telling CNN's Dana Bash, "It's the worst year of the 9 years and 3 months that I've been in Congress, and having talked to former members, it's the worst year in 40, 50 years in Congress, but I'm leaving because I think there's a job to do out there." I have concerns about this one, because I think that whatever it is that they're going to accuse him of, they actually might have the goods. I don't think they actually had the goods about Matt Rosendale. They might have the goods about this one, if he's going out at the end of the week. Jessica Green weighing in on the same idea. Ken Buck's retirement statement. Statement from Congressman Buck on his department for The Biden words. Statement from Ken Buck on his departure from Congress. It's been an honor to serve the people of Colorado's 4th for the past 9 years. Helix, is that anywhere near you? I want to thank them for their support and encouragement through the years. Today I'm announcing that I will depart Congress at the end of next week. I look forward to staying involved in our political process, as well as spending more time in Colorado with my family. Translation, lobbyist. Jessica Green. And I don't know if I'm allowed to read this because she's officially ended her Dark Jessica arc. But it was funny, so I'm going to keep it anyway. Jessica Green, friend of the show, says, "So, did you get caught with a dead girl or a live boy?" To which I responded, and the reason that I used that song as my lyrics for Tuesday, perhaps a living dead girl. I got an AO from Jessica Green for that. I think that they had goods on this one. I don't think it was just threats. I think that they actually had something on him. Honestly. One of the page shills came right out after this and said, "Oh, now Jack Smith only has to indict 3 more members of Congress and remove them." From my home state. This is coming from Cavalier Jones's office. Former Milwaukee election official charged with election fraud, misconduct, and public office. From Evan Casey. This is over at Wisconsin's Public Radio. The former deputy director of Milwaukee's election commission was charged with election fraud and misconduct in public office on Friday after she allegedly fraudulently requested military absentee ballots and sent them to a state lawmaker last week. Kimberly Zapata, who was fired by Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson on Thursday, told investigators she sent improperly obtained military ballots to State Rep. Janelle Brantjen of Menominee Falls on October 25th. She now faces 3 counts of election fraud involving absentee ballots and 1 felony count of misconduct in public office, according to the criminal complaint filed by the Milwaukee County DA's office. Now, you'll notice that there's no party anywhere in this, except for the fact that Rep. Brantjen was involved in this, which kind of tells me that this might have been a frame-up. But if she was working for Cavalier Johnson's office, then she was a Democrat. But, you know, Wisconsin Public Radio won't tell you that. At all. But regardless of party, I was told that this doesn't happen, that this is impossible to do, and yet, here it is. The Mogwai says, maybe Ken Buck was seen with Kamala Harris at Planned Parenthood. I was to the understanding that hasn't happened yet. That's supposed to happen like tomorrow, isn't it? I saw something about that today, but I think that's not supposed to happen until tomorrow. Alright, Zapata had worked with the Milwaukee Elections Commission for the last 6 years. She served as deputy director since June of 2022. Part of her duties including supervising voter registration and absentee ballot voting. The complaint states that ballots that Rep. Brantjen received at her home were addressed to Holly Brantjen, Holly Jones, and Holly Adams. The fake military ballots were mailed by clerks in Menominee Falls, Shorewood, and South Milwaukee, and were requested through the My Vote Wisconsin website on Zapata's work laptop on the morning of October 25th. The Milwaukee resident used her municipal login credentials to access the My Vote Wisconsin database to find Brantjen's home address. According to the complaint, Claire Woodall-Vogg, executive director of Milwaukee Elections Commission, sent Zapata an article and statement from Brantjen on October 31st, which discussed the ballots she received in the mail. In that statement, Brantjen said she believed someone was trying to point out how easy it was to get military ballots in Wisconsin. Zapata told Woodall-Vogg she has a point, the complaint said. On November 1st, Zapata admitted to Woodall-Vogg she was the one who sent the ballots to Brantjen. Yeah, this completely looks like a frame-up to me. and a frame-up that failed. Ha ha! Guess what? We have 20 minutes left of the show and still things I like and things that I hate. Guess what we're doing on Saturday in the afternoon? I can't believe I'm going to have a 3-stream week again. Because we can either skip Fall Out Friday or do a Saturday show. And I'm going to tell you right now, digital bullets on a stress-filled week seem like just what the doctor ordered. Can we do this entire topic? I don't know if I can. If we're going to do the Saturday stream, then yeah, I can't get into the E. Jean Carroll stuff. We'll run out of time. And we'll be halfway through the topic. So let's go into the government funding because, hey, the government shutdown isn't going to happen. You know what the worst part of a government shutdown is? They open it back up. From CNN, Biden signs key government funding bills into law averting a shutdown. From Claire Ferran, Ted Barrett, Morgan Rimmer, and Kristen Wilson. President Biden signed a package of 6 government funding bills into law Saturday, a day after lawmakers raced to fund critical government departments and agencies through a remainder of the fiscal year. The spending bills, backed by top Democrats and Republicans in both chambers, represent a major breakthrough for lawmakers after months of using stopgap bills to avert shutdowns at the 11th hour and a race to get the latest measure across the finish line ahead of the Friday night deadline. The White House thanked the top congressional lawmakers from both parties for their leadership in getting the bills to the president's desk. The OMB said late Friday the agencies would continue their normal operations and had ceased shutdown preparations after Congress finally passed an updated funding legislation. But the work isn't over yet. Lawmakers still need to finalize and pass a second slate of funding bills ahead of the March 22nd deadline. Democrats and Republicans have both claimed wins in the spending package, which includes funding for the Departments of Agriculture, Commerce, Justice, Veterans Affairs, Energy, Interior, Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, as well as the Food and Drug Administration, military construction, and other federal programs. That just means the national debt's going up, and you're going to be on the hook for it. Aren't you excited? The Senate passed the measure Friday in a 75-22 vote after it passed the House earlier this week. Now, where I land on this, what I feel about this is completely different than what the reality of this is politically. Politically, Republicans did the right thing. They did the absolutely right thing. For common parlance, they did not. For common parlance, they did a sucky thing. They did a shitty thing, and I wish that they hadn't. But politically and realistically, they did the right thing, and I'll tell you why. The problem with the government shutdown in an election year is that the Democrat Party has the mainstream media in their pockets. And as soon as the government shuts down, if they propose a budget that Biden doesn't like, if they propose to cut the spending as they promised to do, and the Democrats don't get on board, the second the government shuts down, the moment the government shuts down, you have wall-to-wall coverage. Every television set in the United States, even the ones that are on on-demand streaming service, every computer screen in the United States, even the ones that are not connected to the internet, start flashing a message that say the government hates you and they want government workers to die. And trust me, there are more government workers than ever right now because the Biden admin has been ramping up government employment to try to keep some of their numbers up, and also as a political dare to the Trump administration incoming to say, hey, are you going to really fire all these people? Are you going to eliminate all these jobs? That's a political dare. And I hope that he does too, by the way. But regardless, the second you get this, you have wall-to-wall coverage of how evil Republicans are, how bad they are, and how much they want to kill grandmother. In an election that is otherwise going to be easily won, both on House and Senate level, and going forward. As much as I hate the fact that they didn't fight for lower spending or anything else like that, they did do the right thing. I have to swallow my pride and say they did the right thing. To try to keep some of these communists out of the government, they did the right thing. So, as much as I hate it, it's the pragmatic solution. And you know how I know that they're going to use this fear and panic porn to try to make you feel guilty about wanting to cut spending? Because they'll tell you that they did. Although, stupid me didn't archive this, even though I know Business Insider throws this create an account to keep reading bullshit up on their screen. And I didn't archive it. But you know how I know that they're going to do that? The headline of this that we can see through. The create your account to keep reading. These 4 senators voted against use of federal funding in their home states and districts. That is the exact same rhetoric that would be going with every Republican. Biden wouldn't take any of the blame for it. Schumer wouldn't take any of the blame for it. Jamal Bowman wouldn't take any of the blame for it. We would have wall-to-wall coverage, just like this one, of how evil the Republicans are and how much they want you to die. And again, in an election that is probably pretty easily winnable. Because people seem to be able to see through the bullshit. Alright, and we're out of time for the news, but we got to do the closing, so let's go on and look at the rules of acquisition and some things I like and some things that I hate. Alright, we're almost done. Per request, I am going to take Dual Helix's request, and we're going to start from the top as soon as we're done. We'll go through the list again. And if we wind up going back to a daily show, it's going to be a once a week thing again, but we'll go back to the top once we're done. We did the 284th rule of acquisition. Deep down, everyone's a Ferengi on Tuesday. I keep wanting to say last week, but it was only a couple days ago. Now we are on the 285th rule of acquisition. No good deed goes unpunished. It's an interesting idea, of course, and it's very philosophical in the way that we view morality, right from wrong, and the way that people will treat you as well. This is from the DS9 episode, The Collaborator, involving somebody within the Federation working with the Dominion at the time. This was a later series episode. But when you look at the idea, now hopefully you do good, and I try to do as much good as I can, because I'm going to tell you right off the bat, when I was in my early 20s, I used to suck. I was a horrible person. And I look back at my time at that and realize that, oh man, the fact that somebody else didn't take a shot at me when I was in my 20s is a miracle of the decency of humanity, because I sucked at that time of my life, and I've been trying to make up for it by trying to do good deeds. But I mean, there are occasions where they just come back to bite you. You do the good deed, and then somebody looks at that as an opportunity to come back and basically make profit off of yourself, and for themselves rather. And that's part of where the line for the Ferengi comes in. As a species that's constantly seeking to undercut each other and the rest of the species in the galaxy, to do a good deed, to do charity and otherwise, would leave you open to be undercut by your fellow Ferengi. In a sense, leaving you punished for doing a good deed. Now, I half agree with this, because there are people who will try to profit off of you if you try to be the better person, but we still do need to remember to try to be better. to each other and to ourselves. So I can only half agree with this one. The 285th rule of acquisition, folks. Let's do a couple things that I like and a couple things that I hate. Okay, let's do a couple things I like and a bunch of things that I hate. From the Daily Wire, Democrat senator admits his party needs Americans divided if they want to win. There's this, you would think by reading a headline like this, that this would be in the things that I hate column. There's a reason that I have this in things that I like. And that reason is very simple. One of the things, and I don't care for Trump as presidency, I thought he overspent, and I thought that he stepped on a lot of the rakes that damaged his presidency. But what I will say about that is that he also convinced these people. He didn't force them to do it. But just by sheer will of being there, got a lot of these people to show who they really were. To stop putting the politician's mask on and say, no, I'm here for you, I want unity and everything else, and start to say, no, divide and conquer, and I hate everybody who doesn't vote the way that I do. Virginia Kruta reporting. Chris Murphy of Connecticut admitted in a recent social media post the Democrat Party could not rely on policies and programs alone if they wanted to win elections, and then suggested that promoting class warfare might help their cause. Murphy made the comments in a Tuesday poll to X, citing a recent study that showed most Democrats were not tailoring their campaigns to make them about disparities in wealth. A new study shows that 4 out of 5 Democrat candidates don't talk about billionaire corporate power, Murphy complained. The study highlighted the fact that Democrats have been losing support among the working class since about 2012, and Murphy outright suggested that class warfare was the best way to get the working class voters into the Democrat Party fold. Here is the X. A new study showing that 4 out of 5 Democrat candidates don't talk about billionaire and corporate power. Democrats cannot win if we just talk about programs. We need to tell a story about how the concentration of wealth and power is ruining America. That's right, it's an us versus them thing, which is surprising for a Democrat because at this point, the political winds have shifted and there are more billionaire donors to Democrats than there are Republicans. The rich that they're trying to tell these people that they're against are donating to their campaigns. Critics were quick to point out that Murphy appeared to let the mask slip, admitting that Democrat policies and programs were not winning over the American voters, and that keeping the people divided, pitting average Americans against the wealthy and corporations, was the only way that they could hope to win. That's right, it's Marxism 101, you're right. So, and a lot of this came out, it started to come out a bit under the Obama presidency, but it really started coming out under Trump. They started to lose the veneer and started to just say what was actually on their minds. He made the mask fall. In other news, I don't know why we have royal British family on the front of CNN, but I don't care. We do have some good news out of England. England's health service to stop prescribing puberty blockers to transgender kids. From Tara John. England's National Health Service has stopped prescribing puberty blockers for children as young people with gender dysphoria or gender incongruence, saying there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty-suppressing hormones. NHS England said it made the decision, which was widely condemned by the LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBY AEIOU, sometimes Y, groups after it carefully considered an evidence review it commissioned in 2020. It also reviewed evidence published since then and said in a policy document published on Tuesday. Puberty blockers will now only be available to young people in clinical research trials in some private clinics. UK's PA Media reported Tuesday fewer than 100 young people are currently on puberty blockers via the NHS, and they will be able to continue the treatment it had it. So, and yes, there are horrendous side effects if you forcefully pull these people off the puberty blockers. the idea that they are continuing grandfathering in the ones that they've already destroyed the lives of, I think is actually, it's a worthwhile thing to look into at this point, because the side effects for stopping, and you look at this with detransitioners, it can sometimes be worse than any depression that the gender dysphoria brought on. But again, this is, I think, the right decision. You're coming to people who are too young to make decisions about their own lives and often are pressured by society or family members to fall into a certain lifestyle and only know that it's right because their parents have told them to do so. Are now, they're protected from that influence. And as I've always said, if you're actually transgender, you still will be as an adult. You still will be as a grown-up, but a lot of these kids, they hit puberty. We'll use the transgender male to female as an example. They go on, they hit puberty, the nuts drop, and they start to notice girls. And then all that stuff goes right out the window. If you're really transsexual, you still will be when you reach the age of reason, and nobody else can be held responsible for your decisions. I've always maintained that. So yes, I believe this was the absolute right decision. A story that I really wanted to get to on Tuesday, the FDNY got into it. Breaking, the FDNY just drowned out Letitia James during a ceremony. Trump, Trump, Trump. The heroes are waking up. Let's listen. We'll kill the volume on this because it's only a 19-second clip.
Today we are making history, swearing in our first African-American woman chaplain of FDNY, Kavanaugh, and she pardons for that recognition.
Now, I do have some problems with this, because these people are standing here in their official capacity on the taxpayer dime. What they do when they are not in official capacity, when they're not in uniform, when they're not working, is their own business. How they vote and whatnot, that is their own business, 100%. But when you are taxpayer funded in an official capacity, you are representative of the government and should not be taking any partisan sides. Now, this of course should be extending to Letitia James as well, who is herself taking a partisan side and a partisan stance in her official capacity. And I do understand the blowback and everything that goes with that, but one side has to start being right in order to hold the other side to account. And yes, Letitia James, acting in an official capacity, should not be campaigning and working to take out a political enemy, nakedly or otherwise. But I also find it funny that even in New York, government employees who are notoriously left-wing can come in here and drown out somebody who is clearly doing wrong. The grip is being slipped. And this might not follow a partisan following. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in November. But what I do see when I see things like this is the possibility that the authoritarian party, the more authoritarian party, because they're both very authoritarian, but the more authoritarian party might be knocked down, and then we can start taking the less authoritarian party to task, which is what I hope to see. This moves a bit into a thing that I hate though too, because they're going to turn around and they're going to try to call these people out, identify them, and make them pay for for standing up against the administration. The Daily Wire reports New York Fire Department trying to identify which firefighters booed Letitia James. From Hank Berrien. A report says the New York City Fire Department will try to discover exactly which firefighters booed Letitia James at a graduation ceremony last Thursday. "Oh, come on, we're in a house of God," James said to the firefighters, booing her down. "Simmer down." "Nobody's hunting anyone down," the FDNY said in a statement after saying that they were going to hunt down the people who booed and chanted Trump. "We're looking into who clearly broke department regulations. It has nothing to do with politics. And it's about professionalism at an official event held in a house of worship," he said with his fingers crossed behind his back. Chief of Department John Hodges sent an email to other chiefs at the FDNY saying the Department's Bureau of Investigation and Trials was looking into which people booed James and chanted Trump at the event, the New York Post reported. And the reason this moves into the camp of things that I hate is because if this was going the other way, and these people were booing Donald Trump and cheering Letitia James's name, there would be no investigation, and you know it as well as I do. And now we will do a few things that I hate. Again, we're not going to get through everything because we have another makeup stream to do, but we'll get through a couple. We'll get some minor ones, I think, done. Another one coming out of Wisconsin. Madison, of course. Who will be up in arms when a right-wing protest comes up, or rather feds pretending to be a right-wing protest comes up and walks down the same street, which, by the way, I know exactly where they are because there's a Festival of Foods in that building right there, and if you follow this street down here over there, you will be at the Wisconsin State Capitol. Dozens of protesters in Madison today shouting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This is from March 6th. About 8 days ago. I found this actually after Contemporary. Man, if you only knew what the hardcore Muslims thought of you guys. These are probably the people who caused the Biden admin to say, yes, we will ban TikTok. Alright, other things that I hate. Let's see, let's pick and choose. Why is that on things that I hate? This is something that I liked, even though it's not going to happen anywhere. Currently, Steve Garvey, former MLB player, is leading Adam Schiff in California in the Senate primary. Will he win? I don't think so. But the fact that he's winning makes me laugh a little bit. Will California elect a Republican? Absolutely not. But it does tell me that people are also possibly sick of Gavin Newsom's shit. And Adam Schiff is not the hands-down shoo-in that he thought he was. And the fact that there's a lead against Adam Schiff in the jungle primary tells me that there's a glimmer of hope as to what happens in November. Again, I'm not going to make any predictions about November right now. I will cite the statistics. I will tell you what it's going to look like, but anything can happen that day, and if you want the outcome that you want, you need to go out and vote for it, whatever that outcome may be. I want an outcome where none of the people that ran for president ever see the presidential office again, so I'm not voting. Although there's a solo video coming at some point when I'm not working nonstop or living nonstop, I will say more handily than anything else, on what it would take to get me to vote Trump. Because there is a very specific and itemized list that would need to be fulfilled in order for me to do so. But if you want to see a certain outcome, you need to vote for it. The people of California appear to be. Will they be successful? I don't know. Is it awesome? Yes. In other political news, I'm going to hold off on this one because that's got a rant in it. In fact, I'm going to hold off on the Shapiro one too because that's got a rant in it. And we're over the 2-hour mark, so we'll talk Aaron Rodgers. And then we'll call it a night. And we'll talk Aaron Rodgers because the Mogwai brought it up at the top of the show. Breaking from me and Pamela Brown, CNN. RFK Jr.'s VP prospect Aaron Rodgers has shared false Sandy Hook conspiracy theories in private conversations. Well, we won't go into what's true and what's false off of this. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, you need to go find my friend Stephen Ignoramus. But the reality, and John Ziegler points it out absolutely perfectly. So to review, Pamela Brown has allegedly had direct evidence, though presumably zero documentation unless CNN's playing a game here, for many years that Aaron Rodgers is a Sandy Hook nutjob, but Rodgers has never been a big enough news story before now for her to report on this. Which is a fantastic point. This person was the MVP of the NFL for 8 out of the last 13 years. It's not like we don't know who Aaron Rodgers is. They could come back and bring this up at any time. And Sandy Hook happened while Aaron Rodgers was in the NFL. And while he was a starter on top of it. While he was a weekly news story in the state that I live in, Wisconsin. It's not like they don't know who this person is. And even when he started to fall off from the good little boy radar, like when he went on Rogan, and when he decided that he didn't want to be vaccinated, and they started to denigrate him then, that story could have come out then. He went on Rogan in 2020, I think. 2020 or 2021. I think it was 21. And that's where people started to think, oh, well, hey, now we're supposed to hate this person. And this is, again, never mind the fact that RFK Jr. is tapping somebody with no political experience to be a VP candidate pick. Presumably because he has nothing else to run on except for anti-vax. RFK Jr. cannot run on his record. He absolutely 100% cannot run on his record. Because he's trying to tap off the DeSantis votes who were alienated by the fact that DeSantis dropped out. And you can hear it in their rhetoric too. They come on, well, Trump was the father of the vaccine and that's why we hate him. And the DeSantis campaign told us to hate him and that's why we hate him. And it comes back to the indictments and the vaccine. For the DeSantis bros. So of course it makes sense that RFK Jr. would come up and try to find, okay, who is out there that is prominent and anti-vax? Oh, hey look, it's Aaron Rodgers. Do you have any political experience? Oh, who cares? I can make a narrative with you. Come join me. Here's the article. RFK Jr.'s VP prospect Aaron Rodgers has shared false Sandy Hook conspiracy theories in private conversations with no documentation. Independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. has confirmed that among his potential vice presidential prospects is New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who in private conversation shared deranged conspiracy theories about the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting not being real. CNN knows of 2 people with whom Rodgers has enthusiastically shared these stories, including with Pamela Brown, one of the journalists writing this piece. Brown was covering the Kentucky Derby for CNN in 2013 when she was introduced to Rodgers. Then with the Packers at a post-Derby party, hearing that she was a journalist with CNN, Rodgers immediately began attacking the news media for covering up important stories. Rogers brought up the tragic killing of 20 children and 6 adults by a gunman at Sandy Hook, claiming it was actually a government inside job and the media was intentionally ignoring it. This is more damning, by the way, to CNN than it would be to Rogers. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. If this is true, that means that they sat on it and ignored it for 10 years. And I keep getting told that Sandy Hook denialism is one of the most dangerous, evil conspiracy theories that gets people killed. And yet, not a peep. Aaron Rodgers was praised for his athletic prowess and his willingness to date Shailene Woodley, who is a crazy leftoid. He was asked, oddly, will he, won't he, with Danica Patrick? None of this came out. And honestly, that just makes it worse. If she's been sitting on this information since 2013, not that she has any documentation for it as well. So, alright, we will finish off with the rest of the things that I hate on Saturday. The Saturday stream is coming. But as for me, I'm going to pop off of here and I'm going to go take care of the mess that's sitting over there that the Mogwai denies exists, but again, he's not here, so he can't see it. He's going to say, bless his heart, bless my heart. That's a mess. I've carefully curated what you can see in this apartment, so thank you for your vote of confidence, but it is a horrible mess in here. And we're going to fix that. So let's throw some outro music up and head out of here. What a rush. What a fun show. What a lot of stuff to get to. I do miss streaming every day, by the way. And doing this every day. But again, I mean, when I work nonstop, my apartment starts to look like this. And we can't have that. We've got to go by the Jordan Peterson model. Clean your room. Well, I'm going to go do just that. So thanks everybody who came by and hung out and chatted and brought up your concerns and pushed us up to the front of the page, and everybody who shared this out and shared this with a friend, and everybody else who has supported here. And by the way, special thanks, because I said it last night on Final Fantasy X Wednesday, but I don't know who saw it, but NO follows I'm Iron Wolf, followed a couple days ago. Thank you for that. Falling Star subscribed. So that's a little bit of cash in the pocket. Thank you for that. And the Mogwai also did a resub as well. So thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll be back here tomorrow night for Fallout Fridays. No news, just video games. Come back and join me for that. And that will be ending at 10 because I have to work on Saturday. And after work on Saturday, we will see what we can clean up from the stack here. We've got some more stuff here. I don't know if we'll do a 2-hour show on Saturday. I kind of hope not, but we'll have 3 streams this week just to come back and catch up. Take care. Have a fantastic night. Enjoy your family. Get some rest. Get some food. Call your mom. You haven't done that in a while, I'm thinking. Call your dad. Say hi to that girl that you like. And take care. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a great night again. And until next time, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.